Hello, welcome to Whole Lot of Chaos, the podcast where I talk about movies, shows, games, books, what have you, as chaos commences. I'm your host, Chaos Beetle Frontiers, and for the very end of the year, I have a very special episode. As my opening implies, I won't just be covering movies, I will also be covering shows, books, and in today's episode's case, games. And the games that I plan on covering today are games that I've actually started playing this year, called what I like to call the Mega Man Power Games. Mega Man The Power Battle, Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters, and 8-bit port for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, Mega Man Battle and Fighters. Yeah, all of which got re-released on Switch this year, and this is I believe the first time they've ever been re-released on modern consoles, which is straight up fantastic. For those who don't know, Mega Man Power Battle and Power Fighters were originally arcade games, both of which ran off of different boards, I believe. But during the 2000s, they got ported over to all three versions of the Anniversary Collection, and it's been a while since I've checked this, but to unlock Power Battle, you need to beat Needleman in Mega Man 3, and for Power Fighters, you need to beat Junkman in Mega Man 7, which is an odd set of requirements, I'll admit that, but still cool nonetheless, and they haven't been ported to consoles ever since, but now they're on Switch, which is the console that I mainly play on, and unlike Morbius and Howard the Duck, I don't have any case to read off of them. These are digital re-releases, so I will not be reading off of anything this time. And also, before talking about the actual games themselves, I do want to give like a little bit of an opening with my experience with the franchise, kind of like how I did last episode with Marvel. For those who don't know, if you don't know, you're living under a rock, but Mega Man is one of my personal favorite franchises. It might just be my favorite video game franchise, and I have marathoned the classic games countless times. So, I've definitely had a lot of experience with the series, though I did also just beat Mega Man 5 on Game Boy and Mega Man in Base, the Super Nintendo port this year, both of which were fun times, but again, that's not the focus of the episode today, or those two games are not the focus of the episode. Mega Man is the focus, but we'll be talking about the Power games, starting with Mega Man The Power Battle, which I believe runs off of the CPS-1 board. And I haven't played many arcade games yet. I think one of the few arcade games that I have tried out twice is Street Fighter 1, which fucking sucks. But there are some other arcade games I have played, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade games, which I have played on the Cowabunga collection recently, which I got for Christmas. That would make for a good episode. Though the Mega Man Power games are probably currently my most played arcade games right now, and they're definitely the arcade games the games I have played the most on the collection that they've been collected on, the Capcom Arcade Second Stadium, which is like a second Capcom arcade compilation. I don't entirely remember what's in the first compilation, but unlike this one, I'm not really interested in getting that one. And was did both of the games make that purchase worth it? They absolutely did. Again, starting off with Mega Man the Power Battle, yes, that is a very great and fun experience. I had a lot of fun with it. So, basically the gameplay of Mega Man the Power Battle is that you have three characters to choose from. Mega Man, obviously, his brother Proto Man, and his rival Bass. And what makes Power Battles such a fresh experience every time is not only do you have these three characters to play with, but you also have three campaigns to choose from. The first one consists of Robot Masters from Mega Man 1 and 2. The second campaign consists of Robot Masters from Mega Man 3 through 6. And the third campaign just consists of Robot Masters from Mega Man 7. You fight 6 Robot Masters in each campaign. Then the Yellow Devil, or in the seventh route, mini boss named Von Pumpkin, I believe, and then you fight Dr. Wily and then his capsule. And from what I've gathered, defeating the capsule does I don't think defeating the capsule yields you any different ending, I believe. It probably does, but I only lost to the capsule once as Mega Man, and eventually I did beat the capsule with Mega Man, and both endings are the exact same. So yeah, I don't necessarily see the point yet, aside from like maybe extra points. I can imagine that, but yeah, I had a lot of fun with Power Battle because like a big tradition of Mega Man games is the Robot Master boss rush, and we're in like one of the final stages of the game. You fight all eight, or in Mega Man 1's case, four, six, or like four of the Robot Masters again. With Mega Man 1, it's like a little weirder since Cutman and Elec Man are in the second stage, and then the other four are at the very final stage. But with the rest of the games, you take all eight of them on in the same stage. So, but going back to Power Battle, each campaign has 6 Robot Masters for you to fight. I believe the 1 and 2 campaign has Cutman, Gutsman, Iceman, Woodman, Crashman, and Heatman. Mega Man 3 through 6 has Magnet Man, Dust Man, Plant Man, Gyro Man, Napalm Man, and Gemini Man. And then Mega Man 7 has Shade Man, Turbo Man, Slash Man, Cloud Man, Junk Man, and Freeze Man. The only Mega Man 7 Robot Masters that aren't in this game whatsoever are Burst Man and Spring Man, which is completely fine by me. Spring Man was kind of pathetic in Mega Man 7, and I don't think Burst Man would work really well with. I'm not sure if Burst Man will work well with Power Battle. So, though they did remix a lot of the fights, which I do welcome, because in the mainline games, Robot Master fights can be really hard, but for the most part they're really simple. And what Power Battle does is give them more complex patterns while balancing out the difficulty a little bit more. Like, they gave Gutsman more to do. Like, whenever he jumps, it doesn't automatically stun you. Basically, his attacks in Power Battle are throwing rocks, which have debris you need to watch out for, and rushing into you. And the fight with Gutsman in both power games is very fun. Definitely one of my personal favorite fights in the game. Doesn't help that he also has one of the best tracks in the Power games, which I will get to. I will get to the soundtrack. I will say though, not every I don't think every robot master battle is balanced incredibly well. Like Woodman and Iceman, you can stun rather easily, but fights like Gyro Man and Crash Man, what makes those fights so annoying is that there's like stage gimmicks to go with it. Crash Man's gimmick is rather annoying since there's a conveyor belt, and if you hug the wall, you basically get thrown up to the ceiling and then plummeted down, and that's all while trying to avoid his crash bombs. And Gyro Man's boss fight for uh, I couldn't tell you why, but they decided to make it an auto scroller, and it's awful. I think Dustman also has like the same arena as Crash Man, but I could be. I think so, but I don't think it's nearly as egregious as it was with Crash Man. Though, again, Power Battle does also have some really good fights. Another one of my personal favorites is Magnet Man, which Magnet Man already had one of my favorite boss fights in Mega Man 3, but now he's packed with more jumping. His magnet ceiling attack is far more dangerous as they attack you much quicker. And with the move where he tries to draw you into him, he now has a move where he can warp to both sides of the screen rather quickly, which again is also really fun to dodge. I think yeah, I think I also remember Napalm Man being a good fight. Again, it's also more expanded from the Mega Man 5 boss fight where he actually charges you around in the arena, which makes complete sense since he has tank treads now. He's always had tank treads, and in Mega Man 5, he just jumps around shooting his missiles and napalms, which does make sense. But no, but yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why Napalm Man did get Mega Man 5 banned in Vietnam, which is a fun fact for y'all. I do recommend looking that up sometime. Uh, I think I remember Gemini Man also being a decent fight, but as I'll go into later, he's one of the many fights that eventually got improved in the power battles. No, the power fighters. Heatman's also another one. In this game, he's a complete chump. Yeah. But, yeah, the Robot Master fights are really solid. And I can say the same for the arenas that you fight them in. I think that Power Battle is actually a really solid looking game. Animations are, I think, a little choppy, but the environments are really nice. Like with Iceman and Freeze Man, basically, basically with Iceman and Freeze Man, you fight them in this a polar landscape, which, yeah, is which is expected. But you also have like this little whale in the background, and I think, hmm, I'm trying to remember. I just played these games, but I guess you could also I guess you could also say it's kind of like Morbius, where yeah, it's just like some stuff goes in one year and out the other. Because when playing like Mega Man games, especially the power games, yeah, these games are very fun. But I'm more concerned in like actually playing these games instead of just, you know, appreciating the graphics. Because Cause yeah, I guess going off topic for a bit, like video games are just like movies, and I think everyone knows that you can have good graphics, but if the gameplay sucks, then I don't think it's really worth it. You know what I mean? Hmm. I don't really have much else to say for the Robot Master boss fights. Oh, I I think I do also remember for one of the arenas, it's probably Woodman. It's there's like a wily dinosaur amusement park. I think that might also be for Slash Man. Uh, with Mega Man 7 fights, I don't entirely remember their arenas in a reason that I'll get to later. But moving away from the Robot Masters, again, you also fight the Yellow Devil, which I think is one of, if not his best. The Power Games have the best boss fights against him in the entire series, and all of he always gives a different fight in all three games that I'll be talking about here. So with Power Battle, you'll fight him in both the 1 and 2 campaign and the 3 through 6 campaign, but he has different patterns, essentially. So in the first campaign, his main attack is doing what he does best, splitting himself up and launching his projectiles across the room. However, now that's not the only attack he has, and it goes by much quicker and doesn't take up the entire fight, which is very welcome. Instead, he has other attacks like like launching his blobs all over the arena and letting them reflect across, and you can also shoot them down. And I think, yeah, that's like a really cool addition to a now decade old, multi-decade old boss, or I believe when the time that Power Battle was released, a decade old boss. And another one of his attacks is him slamming his hand onto the ground, trying to catch you into him, and then spinning you right out. Which, yeah, that's another fun attack. And the Yellow Devil has plenty of attacks like these. And in the second campaign that he's in, he summons multiple small versions of himself. One is on the ground, one attacks you from the ground, and two are from the ceiling, which I believe also attack you. And what's really cool about this is that in this campaign, Yellow Devil is weak to the gyro attack. So basically you can attack so basically you can hit the Yellow Devil from both planes using the gyro attack, which is really cool. And oh yeah, Power Battle also interprets weapons really cool and in a balanced way for this game. Like Super Arm, which was a near useless weapon in the first Mega Man game, Gutsman's weapon. Now it basically launches a rock, which is really short ranged, but is extremely powerful and does wonders for taking out the Yellow Devil in the first campaign. Uh, I think in the Mega Man 7 campaign, they also did a good job expanding Von Pumpkin's set. Where I think he was one of the harder bosses in Mega Man 7, but here they definitely expanded his moveset more, where now he does ground pounds and basically spits more goo at you. But here he has more varied ways of doing it, like spread shots. Where I believe in Mega Man 7, it was basically just single fire rapid shots. And I guess that just leads to Dr. Wily, which I actually really like the theme that the Dr. Wily fight uses. It's a CPS1 remix of the Mega Man 3 Castle boss theme, which is one of my personal favorite boss themes in the franchise, but the actual fight itself is actually pretty solid. Basically the first phase is that you have to choose which part of his machine to destroy, and then the second part of the phase basically depends on which part of the machine you actually destroyed. Like stuff like that is really cool. Though the before mentioned Wily capsule segment of this fight is very annoying, I will admit. Basically there's two capsules and he switches between the both of them, and yeah, it's not fun, especially since he could be on one side and you try to shoot the weapon at him, but then he immediately switches to the other side. Like, stuff's annoying, and you're on like a 10-second time limit, so. Or not 10 seconds, but 10 seconds in game. And the only story this game really has is with the endings, all of which I think are just fine. They're fine. I don't think they're really that bad. They're just fine. And the last thing I do want to talk about when it comes to Power Battle is the music. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Like, I'm actually really fond of Gutsman's theme in this game. I really do like it. Gemini Man, I'm not entirely sure on. And I think Crash Man's theme is a little too scratchy for my taste. Though I will say what really sucks about the soundtrack is that for a lot of the themes, they don't really use them for like the appropriate fights. Like with Cutman's theme, they use Shadow Man's theme, and with Dust Man's theme, they use Gutsman's theme. And when fighting Crash Man, I don't think they even use his theme. Instead, Crash Man's theme is just given to Woodman. And, like, why is that? And it's especially weird since there are fights that actually do match the Robot Master that you're fighting. Like, Gutsman actually has Gutsman's theme, and Gemini Man actually has Gemini Man's theme. But, yeah, this is one of the issues I do have with Power Battle, and it gets worse in the last game that I'll be talking about in this episode. But otherwise, yeah, I actually had a lot of fun with Power Battle here. Solid 8 out of 10 game. Definitely could be better, and that's where the next game that I'll be talking about today comes in. Mega Man The Power Fighters, which is basically a vastly improved version of Mega Man The Power Battle. To start off with, there's 3 campaigns, but rather those campaigns, the main theme just being different robot masters from very specific games. Basically, these campaigns are based more on story reasons. And one campaign is searching for Wily, the other campaign is rescuing Roll, and the final campaign is getting some parts back for Dr. Light. And you still have all the same playable characters as before, but now this game adds Duo into the mix. And I played a bit of Duo, and he's not my personal favorite character to play as, but he is very fun to play as. Very powerful, but also mostly short range. But yeah, it's just fun playing as Duo, especially since Mega Man 8 is one of my favorite classic games. So, Duo is definitely a welcome addition. As for what each of the campaigns has to offer, I do really like how the Robot Master selection is a lot more spread out this time around. So basically, the Search for Wily campaign, I believe that has Centaur Man, Shadow Man, Gyro Man, Plant Man, Heat Man, and Bubble Man. Yeah, Bubble Man finally makes an appearance here, so does Centaur Man and Shadow Man. For the, I believe for the Rescue Roll campaign, it's Cut Man, Stone Man, Shade Man, Alec Man, Dive Man, and Slash Man. That's what. Yeah, I think that's it. And then with the parts campaign, it's Guts Man. Yeah, it is the parts campaign. It's Guts Man, Pharaoh Man, Air Man, Quick Man, Gemini Man, and Napalm Man. And one one area this game actually manages to vastly improve upon from Power Battle is actually the boss fights. Like take Gutsman for example. Uh, when he launches his rocks, instead of the debris just landing right next to the wall that the rock lands on, which is easier to avoid, now the rocks can actually trick you a bit, where you go away from the wall to dodge the rocks, but instead they spread out away from the wall, which will probably end up hitting you. Gemini Man also has a trickier fight here, since his fight goes by Mega Man 3 logic, where if you fire at him, he shoots back, which makes for a much trickier fight, especially since it could also lead to you getting hit by his constant jumping all over the screen. And Napalm Man's attacks are far more rapid. Heat Man also has a trickier fight, since his flame bursts are much bigger, and it's much more common for him to dash around the screen and to unleash a fire wave attack, which basically travels across the ground. And you can actually jump over it, but if you're in a corner, that's definitely something you'd want to do. Centaur Man especially has a really tricky fight, since his centaur arrows go in multiple directions, and he's also very fast. Centaur Man doesn't jump, but he does dash, and it's probably the one dash in the game that will catch you the most off guard. Quick Man also makes his appearance in this game, and yeah, he definitely also has a tricky fight. I will say, one thing that I don't like that Power Fighters did was remove some of the bosses from the Power Battle, which, yeah, makes sense, but on an objective scale, even though Power Fighters does have the better boss selection, I think that's still something I would knock the game against, especially since I think one thing I would definitely do is make more campaigns to bring in the rest of the Power Battle bosses, and I do think that a lot of the bosses from the Power Battle could be improved on, like Crash Man and Dust Man, which did not make their returns in this game. But they did make Gyro Man's boss fight a lot better, solely due to the fact that his fight doesn't have any auto scrolling, and yeah, that's actually one improvement. That's another massive improvement that Power Fighters makes. There's no stage gimmicks for certain robot masters. All of the robot masters are actually, actually pretty even to fight with. And a lot of the new bosses are really fun to fight against too. Shadow Man being one of my personal favorites, as his boss fight in Mega Man 3 was really cheap, but here, not only are his attacks slow enough to dodge, but he can also reflect your attacks with a log, and he can also bring in a giant frog. Almost like those bosses from Yamato's Man stage. It's a really fun fight. Plant Man is another boss fight that's much trickier in Power Fighters than he was in Power Battle. Because in Power Battle, all he just did was move slowly, fire off a single very slow shot and then fire off his plant barrier. But in here, not only does he fire off his plant barrier, but he can do it at multiple angles. He can summon plants to fire for him, and he can fire spread shots as well as far more rapid single fire shots, which does make for an overall trickier fight. And I think Napalm Man's fight is also trickier, mainly because his projectiles are much bigger. Power Fighters in general is a much trickier game, or a much harder game than Power Battle, but it makes up for it with its fights being far more balanced. And there's also more original fights that I forgot to mention, like Dive Man, which is a really tricky fight that I do enjoy. Bubble Man is definitely on the easier side, but he's a fight that I also do enjoy fighting against a lot. And yeah, Pharaoh Man is also a solid one, though I will say his Pharaoh Wave attack is a bit of a pain to dodge. With Centaur Man and Pharaoh Man, they actually give you different weapons here. I personally prefer the Pharaoh Shot from Mega Man 4 over the Pharaoh Wave, but Centaur Arrow is a very welcome weapon, and I do like how they change Stone Man's weapon, because, yeah, in Mega Man 5, his weapon was complete garbage. And now, now there's 3 castle bosses to fight against. When you're searching for Dr. Wily, you'll go against the Yellow Devil, I believe. No, I could get this mixed up again. When rescuing Roll, you go for the Yellow Devil. When getting the parts, you go for the Mecha Dragon. And when searching for Dr. Wily, you get the Mad Grinder. I think that's it. Mad Grinder, I'm not a huge fan of, but I actually do like the fight against Mecha Dragon. And again, the Yellow Devil has probably his best fight in the entire franchise, and I do really like it. I think one area that Power Fighters actually does worse than Power Battle is the Dr. Wily fight, because not only are there less options for how you should approach this fight, and it's much easier to stun the Wily machine here, but there's also, each campaign also has an exclusive enemy to go with it, and they don't make the fight harder, they just make it more annoying, because this game does have stun back. Though I do vastly prefer the Wily capsule fights here. I will say, though, I'm not really a fan of any of the endings. Like, yeah, they have good layouts for, like, lore to be added into the series, but with Mega Man's ending, it's basically just Wily tells him that he's a hypocrite, and then his family immediately tells him otherwise, with Dr. Light being the only one to actually give a reason for why Wily's wrong, and then Mega Man just immediately feels better. Proto Man's ending is probably the weirdest one, where Dr. Light tries convincing Proto Man to fix his defect, which he fails at. And Proto Man just leaves, which sort of feels out of character for me, but then again, Proto Man didn't really have that kind of character back then that I'm more familiar with in stuff like the Archie comics, where, yeah, he was an absolutely fantastic character there. And Base's campaign just ends up confirming that Dr. Wily built Zero in the X series, so that's something. I realize I haven't talked much about how I feel about playing as each character, and I would say my personal favorite characters playing both games would probably have to be Proto Man. I would say tied with Base, but I don't really like Base's dash move. But Proto Man has a really solid dash move where it's basically like a shield rush. His his buster shots are pretty big, and in Power Fighters, what makes him my favorite character to play as is there's a little feature in Power Fighters where Eddie will come by and gives you like this little capsule that will allow you to bring a buddy into battle. And with Proto Man, you get Beat the Bird, who was first introduced in Mega Man 5. And basically, with Beat, you get to be invincible for a short amount of time, yeah, it's really great for boss battles, especially since a lot of the Robot Master boss fights, you're going to get hit a lot. Again, Power Fighters is a much trickier game, so, yeah, you'll definitely need help like this. Though, I think the campaign that I played as with Bass was actually my first time not dying on any of the campaigns, so that's definitely a plus. I think that the graphics are actually improved here. I definitely do like a lot of the sprite work for the Robot Masters. The animations are much smoother. And I wouldn't say the backgrounds completely stick with me like Power Battle. Again, like with Power Battle, but they're really good. Like with Quickman and Electman, they just take place midair in the sky on a little platform. Am I like okay? But Gutsman and Shadow Man's fights both take place on the same street. Centaur Man's is basically the same arena as Electman and Quickman, but I believe Electman's fight is in the day. Quickman's fight is at dawn, and Centaur Man's fight is at night, which is definitely really cool. And Heat Man, Napalm Man, and Slash Man all take place in a really cool looking cavern, which again changes depending on which fight you're doing. Which I don't really know what else to say aside from it's really, really cool. I do remember the interior of the Wily boss fights, which I do prefer a lot over Power Battle. They look really nice and really fitting and really cool. And Pharaoh Man is another one that I especially remember, where I believe with his fight and like Stone Man and Plant Man, they take place in like a more ruin. Yeah, it's more of a ruin landscape, but Pharaoh Man takes place at night, which again is really cool since you know if you couldn't gather from Mega Man 4, Pharaoh Man is mainly a robot master who prefers being in the dark. So there is one last thing that I do want to mention with Power Fighters. It has one of my favorite soundtracks in the entire Mega Man franchise. CPS2 soundboard goes so much better with Power Fighters than it does go. It works really well for Power Fighters, and this sounds so much better than the CPS1 board that Power Battle uses. And on top of that, most of the boss fights actually match the Robot Master you're facing. I think like the only exceptions are Plant Man, Centaur Man, and Quick Man. And in the case of Centaur Man and Quick Man, yeah, I think that those really fit the boss fights. Plant Man still uses Crash Man, which I'm bummed out about, especially since Plant Man actually did get a really good CPS2 cover in the Complete Works. That remix was really good. And I would say my overall favorite themes, my favorite music pieces from Power Fighters are Guts Man, Bubble Man, Heat Man, Cut Man, Quick Man's theme, which is just the Mega Man 2 boss theme, Shadow Man, Gemini Man, Pharaoh Man, Airman, Napalm Man, the Yellow Devil boss theme, and Bass's theme, and Mega Man's credit theme, which is basically the Mega Man 2 title theme. There's just so many good music track games, and Mega Man: The Power Fighters is one of my personal favorite video games of all time. Even if I only started playing it this year, I love it a lot, and it's my second favorite classic game overall, only behind Mega Man 5 on Game Boy. And I could just leave it here. Both power games are very good, but unfortunately, there's one last game that I have to cover here, or I want to cover here: Mega Man Battle and Fighters, which is an 8-bit demake of both arcade titles on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and it was re-released on the Switch recently. Power Battle and Power Fighters were also re-released on the Switch recently. I think you can identify the problem here. I will say, though, with replaying Battle and Fighters, it wasn't as bad as I remember it. Like, still not a great experience. It does still carry over a lot of the stuff that I did like from both Power Battle and Power Fighters, but it's just really unnecessary, and there's a lot of stuff that outright baffles me. To start with the good stuff, every campaign and boss fight from Power Battle and Power Fighters is brought over to this game, which is really cool, especially since I believe this is only a single cartridge. And they did a really good job emulating the art style and the sprites for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, the yeah, the hubs, and basically I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like the UI. I'm not sorry guys. I like talking about video games, but I am not a video game expert. But yeah, I like the look of the UIs, and yeah, just to go over the negatives already, I'm going to say thank God this game allows you to customize your options, because the original button layout for Battle and Fighters on Switch is horrible. I believe if you're using the Switch, you have to press let me check. Yeah, when playing like the Switch version, you have to press Y to jump and B to shoot. I don't think I need to explain how dumb this is. Especially since for the mainline console games, that's like the complete opposite. You press B to jump and Y to shoot. Do I even need to explain this? It's completely backwards. And another dumb thing is that you have to go into settings just to enable the rewind, which is a really nice feature, but it's also really inconsistent in this game. And to go over gameplay issues I do have with Battle and Fighters, screen crunch. Yeah, it's a much smaller console, and I think they did the best they could to shrink the arenas the best that they could, but that doesn't help the fact that a lot of Robot Master boss fights here, I think Elecman being the worst offender, that they go off screen and you don't know what they're doing. You just have to wait for them to come back on screen, where they might just completely blindside you by then. And I don't think even Power Fighters has it this badly. And another issue that I do have with Battle Fighters is the music. I think it's because of the cartridge space. And here's the thing, these are really good remixes. The problem is that there's so little tracks for every single Robot Master fight in this game. All 6 campaigns, you're either going to hear Shade Man's theme, which does not fit this game whatsoever, Cut Man's theme, which does fit, and the Mega Man 2 title theme, which, yeah, it's fine. I guess it works. And for, like, gain a new weapon and in between cutscenes for each Robot Master fight, you're going to hear Like Man's theme, which is definitely weird. And for Wily and the Capsule boss, you hear a theme that I don't really recognize all that much. And for the Capsule theme, you just hear the Wily Capsule theme and then ending theme, and this goes for literally all 6 campaigns, no matter which character you are playing as, and it's annoying, especially since, again, Power Fighters is one of my favorite soundtracks in the franchise, and I wanna hear an actually really good 8-bit demake version of Power Fighters soundtrack. It's good stuff. And I mean, yeah, I think those are like the biggest problems I have with Balan Fighters. The one that really irks me is that okay, so so Power Battle does have its own quirks, and Power Fighters ironed it out in the ironed a lot of those out. Like in Power Battle, when you hit a boss with its weakness, it's just a flash of white. But when you hit a boss in Power Fighters with its weakness, it actually gets stunned for a good amount of time. So yeah, now you know it's the weakness, and there's other stuff like that. But in but no, they kept those gameplay quirks from Power Battle instead of applying those to Power Fighter, and I'm like, okay, what if you just made a game that wasn't just an 8-bit demake, but you had like all 6 campaigns, or just different campaigns that did manage to bring back every boss fight from both games and more, while also allowing Duo to play all 6 of those campaigns as well, because yeah, here he can only play the Power Fighter campaigns. And I feel like this game as a whole is one really huge missed opportunity. I feel like that they could have done so much more. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a super huge fan of the Wily Wars remake, but at the very least, that does a lot of stuff that I think is cool. Not so much with Battle Fighters. And I don't really have much else to say. So, do I recommend Battle Fighters? No, not really. I'm probably going to keep it on my Switch since I can't get a refund and it doesn't take up much space. But, yeah, there's so many games you could play that are more worthwhile and less pointless than Battle Fighters. We could technically still have a good time, but it's on the same console as both Power Battle and Power Fighters, so yeah, it's just kind of a waste now. You don't entirely recommend. Only if you're really that curious. With Power Battle and Power Fighters, though, yeah, put that shit in Dave & Buster's. I will gladly play both of them. And, yeah, I think that just about does it for this episode. It was fun finally talking about video games on this channel for once. And I still hope to do more episodes that vary in topics and such. I hope you have New Year's, or have a Happy New Year. Peace out, and I'll see y'all next time.